Hey there, today I am going to be comparing two different language arts curriculum for 5th grade. So we have it BJU Press English 5. This is going to be writing and grammar. And then we have the Good and the Beautiful level 5. This is going to include literature, grammar, punctuation, art, geography, vocabulary, writing, and spelling. So these are two very different curriculum. BJU Press is definitely more traditional, which you would see more in like a formal school setting. And then the Good and the Beautiful is just a little bit different. So I'm gonna take a look inside each curriculum, do a compare, contrast, and so you can get a really good idea what the differences are between the two and to see if one of these might fit for you. First, we're gonna start off with some of the differences between the two. So if you get BJU Press, you really kind of have to get everything separately. So this is just going to be writing and grammar, but if you want spelling, they have their own separate spelling book. It's a very traditional style spelling. It has a list to one week you're going to have 20 words or whatever with exercises, and again, that's separate. And it also has a literature component where there's a book and then worksheets to go along with it. You can add or use whatever components you want for that. My daughter did the 6th grade spelling, so she wasn't necessarily tied to 5th grade spelling. And then she ended up doing the 4th grade reading. So we just kind of mixed and matched this year, and it worked out great. Now for the Good and the Beautiful, in here, this course book is going to have everything you see here: literature, grammar and usage, punctuation, art, geography, vocab, writing, and spelling. Now, the only thing extra you're getting is the readers. With this, I believe there's 4 different readers, and then there's a watercolor little booklet that they do. You definitely need the readers to go along with this. You can get rid of, you can omit them, but a lot of the lessons tie in. So it's just easier across the board if you get the readers for this one, and it makes it all complete. This one you can kind of piece together if you would like, or get everything. It's pretty versatile. So let's start with BJU Press. First, one of the differences is this has a separate teacher guide. Now, the teacher guide is going to look just like this. And for example, this would be the page in the teacher guide. So this would be like kind of shrunk. I don't have a teacher guide to show you because I didn't get one this year. It did work out okay. So it's a smaller version of exactly what you see here. And then along the side in the margins, there is text of things to review and how to teach the lesson and what to assign. This was pretty straightforward. They always give the overview of what the lesson was about up here, along with some examples. And if you need any further clarification, they have this little QR code with a couple minute video. And so I feel like this can totally be done without the teacher guide, but if you like it just to have to explain things, or it definitely makes grading a lot quicker, so you could do it for that. Now let's go back here. They are going to have, there's 14 different chapters, and there's going to be a couple grammar chapters and then a writing chapter, so you'll kind of see how it goes. Again, each lesson is going to have the summary of the lesson at the top, and then some examples, and then it's going to have the exercises front and an exercise on the back, and that will be a lesson. It's always a front and a back, so it's always pretty straightforward. Let's see, at the very end of the chapter is a chapter review, front and a back, and then there's always a journal entry. I didn't have my daughter do this, but you're more than welcome to. You can kind of do what you'd like, but every single chapter has a journal entry. And then this is a writing chapter. So their writing is I totally recommend it 100% for the elementary years, that is, because they do such a thorough job of explaining what the writing process looks like and giving examples. They break it down to like what, a 5th grader's poem or paper, whatever it may be, research paper should look like. They give you different examples. They give you a revising checklist, drafting guide, and then there's a reflection at the very end along with a cumulative review. So from chapter 2 on, they are doing a cumulative review. Now chapter 3 goes back to grammar. There's going to be about 10, 12 lessons or so in every single chapter. There's 180 lessons total. Now you can absolutely make this a lot shorter by, for example, so here is the end of this chapter. Here's a practice. Okay, so we kind of combined these. So here was a practice, and then she would do the chapter 3 review, no journal, and then the cumulative review. Sometimes she would do the chapter review and the cumulative review together. Sometimes she would do the practice and the chapter review on the same day. We were able to make up a lot of lessons that way by combining, which is really helpful, especially if you don't do school 5 days a week. We only did this 4 days a week. So here is a whole chapter on verbs. What I really like about this is it's just focusing on nouns for that chapter, verbs for that chapter, prepositions, and they're getting really good at focusing on that part of speech. So again, here's another chapter or practice, a chapter review, and the cumulative review. Okay, so here is a book review. So she has to do a persuasive writing. They kind of do an introduction on what persuasive writing is, parts of a book review. So this is what an example of like what a 5th grader wrote. Evaluating a book. So here's a whole checklist of what to do to evaluate a book. And then what she liked, what she didn't like. Here's a plan. You make yours just according to this. So it really, really spells it out. It holds your hand, which I really like a lot of detail in seeing exactly step by step. I think it just helps it go so smoothly. We've had so much success in writing the past couple of years by using BJU Press. Their writing, I can't speak highly enough of it. It's wonderful. So you can see here is a draft. So she got to do her own little thing here, just like their sample. She got to do that, a draft. She wrote that out. And then here's a guide to draft it, some ideas. Make sure you include this, this, and this, and then revise. Here's some, they purposely put in some things that they need to fix so that they can, have an idea of kind of what they're looking for when they revise, because they don't know. They're like, it's great, it's perfect. My writing doesn't need any revision. They give a revising checklist along with marks, proofread. So how I did this, again, to kind of combine some of the lessons, instead of having a whole lesson on revising is 62, and then a whole lesson on proofreading, which is lesson 63, I combined them, and she did one draft because I'm working so, hand in hand, one on one with her. We didn't need, 3 revisions or anything like that. We were able to get it done pretty quickly. And then they said, present your book review. So they considered that a lesson. So you are more than welcome to maybe do that at night, and then you can skip this lesson. She never presented hers formally or anything like that, so we didn't really count that as a lesson. So some of these we were able to, like I said, kind of condense and make it a little bit quicker. Adjectives and adverbs. I'm gonna go a little bit quicker through here because I feel like this gives you a very good idea. Here's a compare and a contrast essay. She did this one. And they give you a couple examples here. Compare and contrast. Draft. Oh, she skipped the cumulative review. Okay, pronouns. This is a persuasive letter chapter. More sentences. And again, don't forget about, you can display that QR code, and they give you a couple options of, just to make sure you are understanding what subordinating conjunctions are versus coordinating conjunctions, and how can you tell the difference, things like that. Just makes it a little bit easier. Developing research skills here. Internet safety, And then lastly was writing a research report, which she finished. She did this one. She actually did this one pretty independently. She did pretty good. Now, she didn't do the reflection or anything, but that was fine. It was the end of the year. So you get a good idea of what English 5 looks like with BJU Press. Okay, now let's move on to level 5 of the Good and the Beautiful. This is my oldest daughter. She completed this one. Now this one is definitely going to be a lot different than BJU Press. So this is broken down into units. I believe there's 5 or 6 units per book. And so this is kind of what they are focusing on in Unit 1. And it does do geography as well, and a poem to memorize. So I do like that they add things like geography and poetry memorization, because especially poetry memorization, I am the worst at having my kids memorize that, and it's so good for you. Okay, so they start off with lesson 1. They are going to be just giving a note to the teacher, and then the student has their own little portion that they are doing. So they start off with work on the unit ladders, page 9, for about 3 minutes. So the unit ladders for here is working on the states and capitals and the provinces and capitals of the provinces of Canada. So they are going to be working on that. This is meant to be done pretty much independently, this level 5, and then work on poetry memorization for 3 minutes, and they have little check marks. They have homophone practice, they have pronoun practice, they have spelling workshop. Now, goodness, why did we cross this off? I'm trying to remember. Did she do, I think she must have done a spelling, a formal spelling, like a traditional spelling. Yeah, I think she did in 5th grade. I can't remember, that's really bad. Okay. And then they have a focus on South America. So Ecuador, they're gonna learn a little bit about that. A compass rose and the direction, things like that. And then personal reading, they always suggest you do 20 minutes of personal reading. Now, what's different about this is that every single lesson is going to look completely different. So as you can see from BJU, it was pretty much, in the summary of the lesson, and then a couple exercises front and back. And that's going to be all the grammar chapters. They're all going to be laid out very similarly. These are going to be a lot different. So there is a small parent-teacher section, and then the rest is up to the student to complete. Now, another thing that's different is they're not going to be saying, okay, this chapter is on, or this unit is on this part of speech. They're just going to have a little bit of practice scattered throughout. So some people like that because, again, it switches things up, it makes things different, but others don't like it because they say they want their child to focus on, almost kind of like a mastery approach where they are focusing on one thing at a time, one part of speech at a time. So that's just really going to depend on the student. And then personal reading, and then they are going to have a writing workshop, writing about spectacled bears. So they're going to have the writing integrated with the grammar as well. So every single lesson is going to have either a spelling workshop or a writing workshop. So here, this lesson 3, has a spelling workshop. Now, BJU Press, it was just focusing on grammar, and then just focusing on writing, and then just focusing on grammar. So they weren't intermixing the two, it was just one at a time. So again, it's really personal preference what would work best for your child. Work on geography and grammar cards for 3 to 5 minutes. They had little cards that come with it. I honestly do not have those. I'm sorry. You can find them on the website. They're pretty easy. They're just, it's a little 3x5 like index card that has like, a picture of a state or something like that. And then some more grammar and assigned reading. So they're giving some vocabulary, and then you see here, read chapter 2 of Chica Chico of the Andes, and then answer the questions. So you could skip this, but it's just easier, makes it easier if they have the reading. She didn't mind any of the readers. She kind of liked them. I don't think she was like over the moon about them, but they were good. They were fine. As far as the parents goes, it's pretty low maintenance. You're just really, so you're dictating this sentence. So she would have to write the sentence. The Japanese captain took a breath of the ocean air. And then they would have to make sure the little hint is capitalized nationalities. You could give that little hint in green or not, if you want to make it a little bit more challenging. But the student would have to write down these 2 sentences. They'd have to spell everything correctly, use proper capitalization and punctuation. And then they would work on their unit ladders and poetry memorization, and then assigned reading. And then here is a writing workshop. And as always, The Good and the Beautiful incorporates beautiful works of art as well. And so I really appreciate that. I don't know how much my daughter who did this did, but I think it's good to be exposed to that. So you're gonna get a good idea of what this is. Yes, she did spelling on her own that year for sure. But just to give you an idea of what the spelling workshop is, it's working on contractions, commonly confused words like capital and capital, spelling rules using DGE, okay, compound words. So they're going to be not just doing spell these 3 words, 10 words or whatever. It's doing kind of spelling rules and when to use this special sound or when to use that set of letters together. So I'm going to kind of go through and you'll be able to see kind of what this is going to be looking like. Again, they're alternating between a writing workshop and a spelling workshop, but there will be grammar. There will be, in every lesson, there will be geography in most of the lessons. Here's Unit 3. So this is what they would be doing in Unit 3. This is kind of the geography they'd be working on. So they want to have this mastered. These states that they would be working on. Hymn memorization of Count Your Blessings. And commonly confused words. Such pretty pictures. I really love this one, this about the good and the beautiful. I don't know, it's hard to choose for sure. So this, she was writing, she had to finish the clockmaker's son and then write about it here. I will say for their writing, it is good. It is good. They build. What I like, if you use the good and the beautiful from like younger age all the way going up, it builds and builds and builds. So I do like that. They remind you do 3 transitional words. The only thing I just wish that they would give an example of like here, like they do in BJU. Here's an example of what a 5th grader's should look like. And kind of, not that you're copying it or anything, but just so you kind of know where you're at, like, skill level wise, if you're on par or if you're ahead, if you're a really strong writer, or if you're just like, ooh, if you need some work. That would be my biggest complaint, not complaint, but just my biggest reservation about it, I guess you could say. So you can see here, it's definitely colorful. There's a lot of different components. If your kid gets bored easily, they won't get bored with this because it's just different every single day. There are 120 lessons, so this could be done 4 days a week for 30 weeks, which I like. I like that there's, it's not 180 lessons and you're trying to combine or cram to make sure you finish it all. Okay, so that kind of sums up these two. I will say for this one, you can make this be independent. So my daughter did this independently. You could get the teacher guide and teach lesson by lesson, or you can do, they have it online where BJU Press has a teacher and you log in and there's a formal lesson, so you can do it all online. If you want to go that route, there's a lot of different ways you can do that. So which one should you choose? If you've seen any of my comparison videos before, you know I'm not going to tell you which one to choose. I can't decide that for you. It's going to be up to you. I'm just here to kind of present two side by side so that you can get a good understanding and comparison between the two. I have used them both. Well, my kids have used them both, liked them both. There's pros and cons to each of them, and it's just going to be what is going to be the best fit for your life, your family, your child, your homeschool. So I hope you liked this video. If so, you can give it a thumbs up. If there's any questions, leave them down below in the comments, and I'll see you later, guys. Bye.